Hey everyone, welcome back to part 3 of my college football deep dive series as we take a closer look at my top 25 teams in college football, going from 1 to 25, talking about what I think makes these teams towards the top, how I think their season's going to go based on their schedule, breaking down the coaching staffs, their transfer portal and recruiting acquisitions, as well as any other moves that this team may have made in the offseason, and then looking at the roster in depth. This is one of the biggest projects that I have taken on, so if you guys will take just a second and hit that like and subscribe button, helps me out, helps get this video out to more college football fans just like yourself. But you guys click the thumbnail. You guys know this is about the Penn State Nittany Lions, a team that I have been lower on in previous years, but they are bringing back a ton of returning pieces, and I think they're going to be one of the best teams in college football. Leave a like on this video. Also, hit the link in the description below. That will take you to my Patreon page where you guys can get access to my Penn State deep dive guide. It's got all my notes for all the players, the ratings for all of them, as well as any information based on outgoing, incoming transfers, and a closer look at the schedule. But I don't want to waste any more of your guys' time. That will be linked down in the description below. Let's take a closer look at this Penn State team and talk about if they have what it takes to be hoisting the national championship trophy. So let's get right into it. Penn State made the college football playoff last year, but they had some turmoil, if you will. The coaching staff did change just a little bit. Tom Allen, the defensive coordinator, decided to leave really out of nowhere and go take the defensive coordinator position for the Clemson Tigers. But I still think they came out on top in this move. They went out and they were able to poach Jim Knowles from Ohio State. Obviously, Ohio State went on to win the national championship. Jim Knowles and his defense is going to be a big talking point for this Penn State team. I think this is a huge addition for the Nittany Lions. At the quarterback position, Penn State did lose Bo Pribula. Now, this is going to be an interesting one. I know they've got some other young guys that have come in, whether we'll talk about all of them, but Pribula was the backup, and when Aller went down last year, I thought he played really well. He's a fun quarterback. He's got dual threat abilities. Either way, you lost a guy that I think could be a potential starter in college football, and you didn't add anything, so I'm going to say they downgraded in that position group. In terms of running back, they didn't make a move in that room. They did bring back their two leading rushers from last year, so I'm going to keep that at neutral. But the wide receiver room, a ton of movement for this Penn State team. Julian Fleming went on to be an undrafted free agent in the NFL. I want to say Green Bay picked him up. I could be wrong on that. They lost Harrison Wallace. They lost Omari Evans, Tyler Johnson, Faye Oluwole. But they went out and they added some big additions. Kyron Hudson out of USC had a really up and down year for the Trojans, but he looks to be an impactful player this year for Penn State. You also went out and had Devontae Ross from Troy. I think he's going to bring some really fun juice to this offense. Trevor Pena out of Syracuse is the biggest addition that this team made. Almost an 1,000-yard receiver last year for the Orange. He comes into Penn State, and I think he can be a big impact player right away for this team. And then they brought in multiple true freshmen, Matt Outen, Lyric Samuel, Kobe Howard, tons of additions to this receiver room, and I think this is going to be a much upgraded position group from where it was last year. I know losing Harrison Wallace does hurt. He had some really big moments for this team, but overall, I do think this position group is upgraded. At the tight end position, you lost Tyler Warren, who you could argue was a Heisman finalist, one of the most valuable players to a college football team. Ended up going to my Indianapolis Colts at number 14 overall. You also lost Jerry Cross. He ended up going to Memphis. So naturally, that is going to be a downgraded position group. On the O-line, they did also lose a little bit. Sal Wormley, J.B. Nelson. Wormley, I believe, was an undrafted free agent. Nelson goes to Kansas State. They do bring in TJ Shanahan. We'll talk about him a little bit later. I think there's some upside there, but overall, they slightly downgraded in that group. Off the edge, it is a downgraded position group. Abdul Carter goes number 3 overall, similar to Tyler Warren, one of the most valuable players to a group. He ends up leaving. You lose Smith Vilbert and Joseph Mupoi. But they bring in Enai White, the transfer from Texas A&M. You bring in Ivan Kamaju as well, another true freshman. Some interesting names, I guess, but overall, you lose Abdul Carter. It's going to be a downgraded group. The interior of this defensive line, however, kind of stays the same. You lose Keziah Izzard to the NFL. T.A. Cunningham ends up also, I believe he went to a community college. But you bring in Owen Waffle, the transfer from Michigan, and then Randy Adrika has been generating some buzz in camp. So it's a neutral group. I don't think they made any moves that upgrade it, but no moves that downgrade it either. Then the linebacker, I think the addition of Amari Campbell makes this an upgraded position group. Amari Campbell really popped off on tape last year for North Carolina. I think he's going to be a big piece for this team. You lose Kobe King. He ends up going in the 6th round. Tamir Robinson transfers over to USC. But you bring in Amari Campbell, and then you bring in the electric true freshman who's going to be wearing the sticks for Penn State in LeVar Arrington. So I do think they upgraded in the linebacker room. Then to finish it off, the secondary, they did slightly downgrade in the cornerback room. Jalen Kimber, Cam Miller, John Mitchell, they all decided to leave. I really liked Cam Miller. I thought he had some real potential to be a long-term starter. I think he's going to be an interesting player to watch for the NFL. Jalen Kimber, I believe, is an undrafted pickup for the Titans. John Mitchell transfers to Georgia Tech. But I like Darius Dixon. I think he's a fun corner. I'm going to say slightly downgraded there, but the safety room is without a question the biggest downgrade, I think, on this team. Jalen Reed, Kevin Winston Jr., 2 starters in this defensive backfield from last year. They both head to the NFL. Tyrese Mills, Mekhi Flowers also hit the transfer portal. King Mack ends up coming back to Penn State, went to Alabama for a year, decided to come back to Penn State, and then you bring in Braz Thomas, a true freshman. Either way, I am going to say it is a downgraded group. Really interesting offseason. I think they had a really successful portal. They addressed the needs they needed to. They're bringing back a lot of the key talent, but obviously they did downgrade at the tight end, the edge rusher spot. So what is that going to look like for Penn State? Do they have the right pieces in place? I'm excited to get into this roster. But before we do that, let's take a closer look at the coaching staff, because James Franklin is back for another season with Penn State. And I think a lot of the narratives that have been written about James Franklin are going to start to be rewritten, if you will, because I think James Franklin has done a really, really good job of kind of proving the doubters wrong. For a long time, it was, can James Franklin get over the hump? Can Penn State beat a top 10 team? Can they get it done? And they did it last year. They were in the Big Ten championship game. Yes, they still lost to Ohio State, but they had some big wins. They were able to win in the college football playoff, made it all the way to the semifinals. And look, I love the way that he coaches his team, because I think he's a great CEO. He's got that type of mindset in where I'm going to let my coordinators do their jobs and I'm going to do my job. And he has built a really good culture. Obviously, a very defensive-minded guy. He has really been a great recruiter, bringing in some of these top high school guys. I mean, you look at it, year in and year out, they seem to have a 4 or a 5-star that comes in and is able to make an impact early on. Obviously, he got the big wins last year, and this is a great culture. I still think he's got some questions to prove on if he can be an in-game manager. Can he help get Drew Aller to the next step? That's going to be the big talking point with Penn State, but I do think James Franklin has done a good job with this team, and I like what he is. I think he's one of the better coaches in college football, and I think it helps because he's got such a good staff around him. Andy Kotelnicki is going to be getting head coaching offers, I think, next season. I know Penn State fans are like, no, don't tell anybody how good he is. I believe, I could be wrong on this, he was the Kansas offensive coordinator a couple of years ago, came into Penn State last year, and this team's offense really took off. For a long time, this was an offense that was very heavy on the ground. They wanted to run the ball a lot, and while there are still those elements in Kotelnicki's offense, he runs a very innovative pro-style offense, a lot of spread concepts, and it really opened up the field where Tyler Warren was able to make a really big impact. We talked about Harrison Wallace. I do think that is going to be a loss for this team because he was really good this past season. They can play in multiple different alignments, whether they want to have 2 running backs, 2 tight ends. they're a really good, like, they play in multiple different alignments, multiple schemes. And because he does run a lot of this spread concept stuff, it is leaving the middle of the field open. He is able to lead big plays. I want to say there was a big increase in 15 or more yard passing plays this past season. And a lot of that is because of Andy Kotelnicki's offense. I think he's done a phenomenal job. And I think this Penn State offense is going to be really interesting to watch this year for a lot of those reasons. Then you get on to one of the big additions of the offseason for Penn State, bringing in Jim Knowles. And Tom Allen has done a really good job of being a good defensive coordinator for this team. But Jim Knowles is just a different type of guy, and I absolutely think that this Penn State defense has the opportunity to be better this year, even without bringing in Abdul Carter, because I love the way that he gets after the quarterback, and you saw it last year with Penn State. Look, JT Tuimoloau and Jack Sawyer, on their own, they are good pass rushers, but I think their numbers were largely inflated due to the incredible blitz concepts that Jim Knowles is able to bring up. He brings a ton of pressure. It seems like they always are bringing a linebacker or the slot. They're bringing safeties. They always are having an extra guy get after the quarterback, and they're able to create pressure at a ridiculously high rate. He's got the personnel to do that with this Penn State team. We'll get into that, but they've got a great linebacker group. They've got athletes all over. They've got good speed on the outside. He is going to be able to implement those blitzing packages right away. They do run that base 4-2-5 defense. And I also am going to be really interested to see how he's going to utilize his jack linebacker, the guy that is kind of their do-it-all player. Whether you wanted to blitz, whether you wanted to drop into coverage, come downhill, defend the run. I'm going to be interested to see kind of what is that guy going to be for this team, because they've got a lot of players on this team that could fit that role. But I love the Jim Knowles acquisition. Jim Knowles, one of the better defensive minds in all of college football. And it's a big-time addition for this staff, for Penn State to be able to go out and get this guy. So absolutely love that for Penn State. And it's a big reason why they are ranked number 3 in my power rankings. But now let's go take a closer look at this roster. And it's going to start with maybe the biggest wild card on this team, Drew Allar. Drew Allar is one of the toughest evaluations that I've ever had to make as an NFL draft evaluator, because there are plays where he looks absolutely phenomenal. I don't think there's anyone out there that is going to deny the absolutely freakish traits that Drew Allar has. He's 6'5", he's 235. He can throw the ball at a bunch of different angles. He's got an absolute cannon of an arm. The deep ball placement there, he shows that. He improved as an athlete this year, I think, in terms of showing that he can, make plays happen with his legs. They can do some designed quarterback run stuff. On that level, it's like, yeah, there's some stuff here with Drew Allar that's really, really enticing. But I think there are a lot of negatives in Drew Allar's game that really scare me about him as a prospect. And I do worry about, can he hit his ceiling? I think that he feels his timing on some of his throws feel a split second off so many times. It always seems like there's some sort of underthrow, or I can't quite put my foot on it. His mechanics, I don't think, are great. I think he throws off his back foot a lot. I don't think he goes through his progressions in the way that you would like to see. I think he's pretty stiff at times in the pocket. His pocket presence is good, but I wouldn't say it's great. But there are so many just inaccurate throws, inexplicably inaccurate throws, where he's throwing it into the dirt or he's missing his receiver by about 3 yards, and those plays cannot continue to be the norm for Drew Allar, because this is a Penn State team that I believe has, obviously, national championship expectations. Drew Allar probably could have been a top 10 pick if he would have come out in this draft just because of the traits, but I don't think in terms of talent he is a top 10 quarterback. I don't think he is a guy that right now I'm willing to bet the house on being this big breakout guy. Obviously, there were strides that he took in the 2024 season that give you some excitement, but I still have a lot of question marks about Drew Allar, about his consistency. That's why he's only an 88 rating, and I don't have the arrow pointing up. We'll see what ends up happening, but I think this is going to be one of the biggest conversations around this Penn State team. Can Drew Allar be consistent enough and be good enough, for that matter, to help Penn State win a national championship? Right now, I do have some question marks about that. Now, I do think he brings a really high floor. He's probably one of the 10 to 12 best quarterbacks in the country right now. But if we're looking at him as an NFL prospect or even a national championship winning quarterback, I have some question marks about him. So that's kind of the conversation that I think needs to be had around Drew Allar, because there are a lot of concerns that I have with his game on if he can be a consistent enough quarterback. And right now, I just don't think we have seen enough of that. But moving on to the depth, and I actually like this group. They did lose Bo Prabula that we talked about, but it's going to be a competition between Grunkemeyer and Jackson Smolik. If I had to bet, Grunkemeyer is going to be the guy that wins this job. 4-star recruit in the 24 class, is the number 8 quarterback in the country. I just love his arm. I think he's got a really good deep ball. He's got really good legs as well. 6'2", 203, lightning quick release, got a good frame, and he moves well. Threw a lot of interceptions. That's going to need to improve. I thought the ball security was really bad, and his timing's going to need to improve, but he's still really young. I think he is going to ultimately win the job. And then Jackson Smolik is the other guy. He's got a red flag. He's recovering from an injury that left him sidelined for a pretty significant amount of time, but 3-star recruit from the 2023 class. Another really good dual threat quarterback, can make plays happen with his legs. I think he's better in terms of his accuracy, at least as of right now, than Grunkemeyer. He's a smart quarterback. He's got decent arm talent. I wouldn't say he's got an elite arm. It's good. It's not great. He's a little bit smaller as well at 6'1", 201. Obviously, the injury as well that he is recovering from. So I've got him at a 76. Like I said, I expect Grunkemeyer to be the QB2. And then you got Jack Lambert as well. A late bloomer in high school. Has his mom and dad are Penn State alum, but probably not a guy that will ever see the field for Penn State as a starting quarterback. A lot of this team does rely on Drew Allar. Can Drew Allar be the guy? If he can take that next step, Penn State absolutely can win the national title. But if he can't, we're going to be left asking more questions about what does this team's future look like. But I do like the depth, and I think there's a solid overall quarterback room. Moving on to the running back room, very different than the last two teams that we have talked about. We did Penn State, we did Clemson. We did Clemson and we did Texas. This running back room, I think, is probably the best in all of college football, and I'm not sure it's arguable. You were able to not just bring back one, but both of Nick Singleton and Kaytron Allen. Maybe two of the top 5 to 6 best running backs in college football are on the same team. Let's start with Nick Singleton, who I think has a legitimate chance of being a first-round prospect in the 2026 NFL draft. There's so much to love about him. He is an incredibly patient runner who has absolutely phenomenal size. He's 6'1", 226, and a guy that I wouldn't be shocked if Nick Singleton ran in the 4.3s. I really wouldn't. He is such a big running back, but he plays such a fast pace. He's got great footwork, incredible vision behind the line of scrimmage. I thought in 2024, he really showed strides as a route runner out of the backfield. They were able to use him on wheel routes, and they were able to get him the ball in space. He showed the ability to make plays happen as a receiving back, which I really, really like. I think he's a solid blocker at the next level. I think his long speed is fantastic. He's incredibly shifty as well for the position. I do think he can get a little bounce happy at times. That's really the area that you have the biggest concern about with Nick Singleton. He does wait a lot for plays to open up, and I think sometimes he's overly patient, if you will. And that does come back to hurt him. There were a lot of times he was tackled behind the line of scrimmage. The route tree, I think, is a little bit limited. While I think it got better, still would like to see a little bit more there. But Nick Singleton is an incredibly well-rounded draft prospect, from the size to the speed to the athleticism to the footwork, the vision. It's all there for Nick Singleton to be the number 1, at the worst number 2 running back in next year's draft class, because I think he is that good of a player. But it doesn't just stop there with this team. If you just had Nick Singleton, this would be elite. But you have Kaytron Allen on this team as well, who I've come to appreciate Kaytron Allen, because there was a time last year that I was really low on him. I didn't think he was a very good player. Obviously, he's got the nickname Fat Man. He's 5'11", 220. But I definitely think he showed some big strides, particularly in the second half of the season for Penn State. He's not an elite athlete. He's an older prospect. He'll be 23 at the draft. I don't think he's got great vision, but he is going to be one of the best power backs, change of pace backs that you have in the entire country. He is another guy that I think is really strong as a pass protector, but his power running style is really impressive. He's a little bit shiftier than I think you would think. I thought he had a solid jump cut, but he's a guy that embraces contact. He falls forward. He plays the position incredibly physically, and I love that. He falls forward, constantly is keeping his legs moving. And like I said, I think the big thing with Kaytron Allen that really impressed me, his footwork got better, I think, this year. I think he showed a little bit more quickness than we had seen in years prior. He is probably going to run a 4.48 to a 4.53, somewhere in that range if I had to guess. But his power running style is really impressive. He is going to run through your face, and it's a really good change of pace from Singleton, who I think has that power, but he's more the speed back. And then you got Kaytron Allen. I think you can play both of them on the field at the same time. They both can do a lot of the same things. This is a very elite running back duo, one of the best in the entire country, if not the best. And it's going to set this team up for a lot of success. And it is a group that you can lean on this year. They can be the focal point of your offense, and I would feel very comfortable about it. But I like some of the depth here. Corey Smith, he's a sophomore. He had 28 carries on the year for Penn State last year. He is the next thing for this Penn State running back room. I don't think there's any doubt about it. He is a little bit undersized, if you will. He's 5'10", 189. Needs to develop more of a power profile, but his breakaway speed is elite. Great footwork, great jukes in the backfield. The contact balance is there, and he's got blazing speed. Keep your eyes on Corey Smith, because I think if one of these guys goes down, Corey Smith can step in and really shine as one of these lead guys. Then you also got Quentin Martin, ran for 32 yards in 2024, former four-star recruit. I don't think he's the greatest athlete in the world. He's 6'1", 205. He's got a good frame, played both running back and receiver. He's got experience as a pass catcher, good in special teams. He's explosive. I don't think he's got the greatest long speed, but incredibly shifty in the open field. Would like to see him improve his contact balance. But this is one of the best running back groups in the entire country. Like I said, if Penn State decides to lean on these two guys to be their offense, I am totally fine with that. I think they have that in the bag. I think they are a really good running back room. And there are still questions about, can this receiving game really take off? I believe that it can, but I love this running back group. Now moving on to the receivers. They've got 3 transfers coming in. So there are a lot of people that are curious about what is this receiving group going to look like. Let's talk about who I believe is going to be their X-receiver this year. That's going to be Kyron Hudson. 6'1", 205 pounds, senior transfer out of USC. 4-star recruit from the 2021 class. I thought he had some really, really good plays. He is going to be this team's more possession type of receiver. Kyron Hudson, obviously, I think people are familiar with the name because the USC-LSU game, nationally televised ABC game, makes one of the greatest catches I think I've ever seen, the one-handed grab. And that's kind of the player that he is. I don't think he is going to be, again, an 83 rating on Kyron Hudson. There's a lot to like there. Some of the best hands you're going to see from any wide receiver. He is an incredibly physical weapon. He plays really high at the catch point. He embraces contact. I liked what he showed in terms of his slants, his short to intermediate routes. I think he's got a decent release package, but he is going to be a guy, he's not going to create a ton of separation. He's not super twitchy. He's not a great athlete. What he is, though, is a really physical weapon that can be a go-get-it receiver for drewallar. I think he can be a good deep ball threat for this team, but he is going to be a guy that is going to thrive in that 7 to 12 yards of the line of scrimmage. He's going to be able to make some of these contested grabs, and he's going to be a chain mover for this team. That's the type of guy that I think Kyron Hudson is going to be, and if that's the type of guy that he is, you feel really good about that. They didn't really have that type of a player. That was Tyler Warren. I think now you have that guy on the outside in Kyron Hudson, and obviously I think he can be an impactful player. The big guy that I think everyone's got their eyes on is Trevor Pena. Ended up hitting the spring portal. This was a big-time get for Penn State because had 932 yards last year for Syracuse. Trevor Pena, I have seen him pop up as a top 10 receiver in college football for some people. I don't know that I would go there just yet. I think he's a really good player, but there's going to have to be some more consistency. But he is a 6 foot, 184-pound receiver that I think can work inside and out. And I think he is the guy that is going to be this deep ball threat, this kind of separator deep. He's not great in terms of after the catch. The long speed is questionable, but his route running is absolutely phenomenal. One of the best route runners in this entire series that we have talked about so far. Great hands for the position. He doesn't drop many passes. He can, like I said, he can work inside and outside. I love his first step, his release package off the line of scrimmage. Really impressive there, and he's super quick. He's super fluid as a mover. His footwork is phenomenal, and he knows how to create separation at the top of his routes. That's what you're looking for from really any of these guys. Trevor Pena gives this team some dynamism in their offense. He gives them a guy that's going to get open. I want to see him be better after the catch. That was really concerning to me. I thought that his contact balance was questionable at times. Wanted to see him really improve that. But he is working in a really favorable offense that we talked about. It's spread. He is going to get looks over the middle of the field, and I think he's going to thrive. He's the number one. He's probably going to be the number one target getter on this team because I think he is the guy that is going to earn those because he's open, and I'm excited to see what he can do for this team. And then Devontae Ross. I really liked Devontae Ross. I think I was watching, what was his name? The transfer from Matthew Caldwell, the transfer from Troy, who ended up going to Texas. And I was just, this guy kept popping off the screen. He's 5'10", 170 pounds. He is going to need to get bigger. But man, his ability to take the top off the defense vertically is ridiculous. He is one of the fastest players I think I've studied. I think he's an easy 4-3 guy. I think he's a good overall route runner. I like what he does in that phase. He's a smart player against zone coverage, knows where to settle out. He's a great on special teams as well. If you want to use him as a punt returner, he returned some kicks for touchdowns last year. Obviously, he's undersized. He's 5'10", 170 pounds. He's not very physical, isn't going to win the 50-50 balls super consistently. He's going to have to probably add on 10 to 15 pounds of muscle at the NFL level at least. But I think the area that I'm most concerned about with Devontae Ross are going to be the hands. He had 9 drops in the 2024 season. When you mix in the fact that he's 170 pounds and he had nearly 10 drops on the year, yeah, that's going to cause some concern for me about him as a player. But there is no denying the athletic juice that Devontae Ross is going to bring to this group. And I'm a big fan of him. I do like him, and I think he is a draftable receiver because of that elite speed. He is kind of in a receiver battle, though, right now with Tysier Denmark. We're going to skip down a little bit. He is in the third column on the bottom. But Denmark is a guy that I actually wouldn't be shocked if he's the guy that ends up winning this slot receiver role, if you will. Kind of a completely different player. 5'10", 187 pounds. He is a bigger, supercharged version of Devontae Ross. I think his footwork is absurd. I think he is going to be one of the best route runners on this team. He's going to get open. He's got a great release package, can be a punt returner. He's really quick off the line of scrimmage. The release package is great. But he's kind of the opposite of Devontae Ross in terms of he's not very fast. I think he's one of the slower receivers on this Penn State team. But if you got Kyron Hudson, who I think can be a vertical threat, you got Trevor Pena, who I think could be a vertical threat, I think Tyseer Denmark is going to get on the field this year for this Penn State offense. I really do. He's big. He's a little bit more physical. I trust him to win the 50-50 balls a little bit more than Devontae Ross. I think he's a little bit of a better route runner, and I think his footwork is off the charts. Denmark is the guy that I have the arrow pointing up on. I really like his game. I really think he is going to be a really fun player. I think Ross and Denmark will probably get almost identical targets. I think they're similar but very different types of players that are going to be playing more of the slot receiver role, if I had to guess. But they're going to be doing different things for you, if you will. But I like Tyseer Denmark quite a bit. I wouldn't be shocked if he ends up having a big-time breakout year. But this team's got a lot of depth at the receiver position. We talked about Tyseer Denmark. Let's talk about Peter Gonzalez, a redshirt freshman. His dad played football at Pitt, former basketball player. He's 6'2", 206 pounds. I mean, the basketball background shows he plays with physicality. He high points the football. I like his stop-and-go abilities. I think he's got good hands. Has had a bit of an injury history throughout his career, though. I don't think he's the fastest guy in the world, but another guy that I wouldn't be shocked if he sees the field a little bit. Then we got Ethan Black, a 72 overall rating for me. He was a preferred walk-on for Penn State. He was electric as a track star in high school, but he's just not very big. He's 5'9", 177 pounds. Probably going to be limited more to a special teams role. Maybe you give him some looks as a gadget player, but not a guy that I think is going to get a lot of really great wide receiver play. Matt Outen is the true freshman that I have the eyes on, though, for this team this year because I like his game quite a bit. He is 6'1", 205 pounds, a member of the 24/7 Freaks list. Competed in some track and field events in high school, but he's really good after the catch. Good speed, good shiftiness in the open field. I think he has the ability to win deep consistently. He is such a freaky athlete. He can be a special teams contributor. He's got a good release package. He might not be the most nuanced route runner right now, but I definitely have my eyes on Matt Outen. I think he's going to be a really good player. And I think he's going to have a role on this team without a doubt. Anthony Ivy is a redshirt junior, played in 3 games for Penn State, 5'11", 187 pounds. A big play machine in high school, good footwork and speed, but incredibly limited production through 3 seasons of his collegiate career. Is not the biggest guy, 5'11", 187 pounds. I don't think he's got great length for the position either. And I don't think he's got a great release package. I got a 73 overall rating on him. Then we've got Josiah Brown. We're kind of going a little bit all over the place here based on the slides, but just going off of my notes, another guy that I've got the arrow pointing up on, a redshirt freshman, but incredibly explosive. He's 5'11", 176 pounds. Again, want to see more nuance as a route runner. He's not very big, but he's a fun gadget player that can be I think he'll be a punt returner for this team at the very worst because he is incredibly explosive, incredibly fast, and I think he can be a fun gadget player in space for you. So I really like him as a player. Lyric Samuel, I got a 75 rating on, another true freshman for this team. A 3-star recruit that I think is very slim for the position. He's 170 pounds at 6'4". He's got good but not great speed, but I like his route running ability. He's got stop and go upside, some blocking potential in there. Probably going to redshirt the year. Liam Clifford, another guy that he didn't get a lot of snaps in 2024. When he was on the field, wasn't very productive. I want to see him be more of a deep ball threat. Doesn't have great play strength. He's a solid athlete, I guess. They used him a lot in motion. 4-star recruit from the 21 class. I just don't really see him being a factor on this team this year. Caden Saunders, another 4-star recruit, a good D1 baseball recruit as well, but through 3 years at Penn State, really hasn't seen the field at all. 5'10", 182 pounds. Been a great punt returner and special teams guy, but I don't know that he'll be a receiver. And then Kobe Howard as well. Long speed, pretty average. Not a great separator, but a good athlete for the position at 5'11", 185 pounds. So this receiving room has a lot of speed. That's kind of been the message with this team. Trevor Pena's got speed. Devontae Ross has got speed. A lot of the freshmen, This team wants to be able to push the ball vertically, and I think they're going to be able to do that this year a lot better than they were able to last year. They've got some real weapons in this receiving room that I'm really excited to see how they pan out. And I'm excited to see who wins that battle between Denmark and between Ross. But let's talk about the tight ends on this team, because I really liked Luke Reynolds this past season. Obviously, you lose Tyler Warren. Brenton Strange, you obviously lost the previous year. Theo Johnson, you lost as well. This team has kind of had a draftable tight end every single year. Luke Reynolds is not draft eligible in 2026, but for the 2027 class, I think he is going to be a potential first-round tight end. Was a 5-star recruit in the 2024 class, the number 1 tight end recruit. Appeared in every game for Penn State last year. He was a former quarterback, and I do think he has a great build. He's 6'4", 248. Excellent frame. He's long, he's muscular, he has the ability to play both in line, in the slot. He's a good athlete. I thought he did a really good job of curling at the top of his routes, getting open pretty consistently. I think he needed to get more experience as a route runner. They didn't use him a lot in that role. But I loved what he showed as a blocker this year. I think he can be a do-it-all, true inline tight end for you at the next level. I'm a big fan of Luke Reynolds. He's got the size, he's got the obviously recruiting pedigree, and he's also shown the ability to be a productive player. So I really like Luke Reynolds. Khalil Dinkins is also going to get into the lineup for this team. He played a little bit for Penn State last year. Definitely more of a blocking tight end. Great blocker in space, helped clear run lanes. He's not going to be much of a receiving option for this team. He's not a great athlete, not a super physical tight end, which I was a little surprised about. Needs some more development in that phase. But I do think Khalil Dinkins, he's going to play for this team and be a good blocking tight end, especially if they want to run some more 12 personnel stuff and just kind of run the football. They did a lot of 12 personnel last year with Tyler Warren and Luke Reynolds both on the field at the same time. I expect it to be very similar. So I think Dinkins will see the field. Andrew Rapplier, probably butchering that name, I do apologize, played 24 snaps, all of them against West Virginia. Another guy that is more of a blocking type of tight end. Good frame, light on his feet at 6'4", 250. Just not a lot of a sample size there, and not a great route runner in that West Virginia game. And then Joey Schlaffer is the last tight end here. Good receiving option. 6'5", 240, redshirt freshman. Not a good blocker. 3-star recruit, but I think he is a guy that if Luke Reynolds goes down and you need a guy that is going to be able to go make some plays, I do think that he will probably be the guy that is going to step in, be that receiving tight end. Penn State loves to utilize their tight ends, though, so I expect Luke Reynolds to be a major focal point of this team. I expect Khalil Dinkins to get some play. Like I said, I think they're going to run a lot of 12 personnel, maybe even 22 personnel, and run less receivers because that's kind of what they have done. But I like this group. I think there's a very good group of skill positions, whether it be the wide receivers or the tight ends. I think you've got really good players in place that are going to help this team. They're going to be able to be more reliable than the weapons you had last year outside of Tyler Warren. I don't think anyone's going to replicate that type of season anytime soon. But moving on now to the offensive line. This is another big reason why I'm really high on this Penn State team. I think they've got 4 really good starters, potentially 5, and they've got depth as well for the position. So right out the gate, Drew Shelton really, really impressed me because I went into it, obviously, I've got my whole list of guys I'm looking at as draft prospects, and Drew Shelton's on my list. Not hearing a lot of buzz about him. I'm like, all right, I'll look at him. Expected him to come in at around the 83 to 84 range. Drew Shelton is a dog, and I'm going to call my shot now. I think he's going to be a first-round pick next year. I really do. He is awesome. He has everything you want for the position. He's 6'5", 310. Maybe you'd like to see him get a little bit bigger, but athletically, he's phenomenal. He does a great job of being a mover in the run game. He's got good hands to counter pass rushers. He blocks with power. He plays the position with a level of nastiness. He's got good footwork and pass protection. He's got good hands as well. The athleticism is there. There are some things that he's going to have to get cleaned up. He's not a perfect prospect. That's why I had the arrow pointing up. I do think he's going to get better this year. I think he's got shorter arms for the position. I haven't seen a lot of people talking about it, but I don't think he's got the ideal length that you love to see. Now, I don't think it's like Will Campbell level bad, but I don't think he's got the longest arms in the world. I think he does tend to overset, however. I think there are times where he will kind of overcommit, and it leads to defenders being able to get around him on their outside shoulder. I think Drew Shelton, though, is the best player on this O-line, and I think he's going to just continue to get better. Then you got Vega Ione, just a really good left guard. I mean, a 5-star recruit in 2023, played 90 snaps in 2024. Hang on, wrong number. Former 3-star recruit. He started in every game for this team. He's 6'4", 348, great size for a guard. Good footwork. I loved his ability as a chip help blocker on the inside. He's a good mover for the position with good hands, the ability to counter in space. For as big as he is, though, he didn't block with a lot of power. I think his footwork needs to improve, and I thought his blitz recognition was a little bit poor, but he's going to be a top 100 pick if I had to guess. The size is great. I think he's a good mover for the position. He can block and run in the run game. He can block in the pass game. There's some stuff there that I think really intrigues me. Nick Dawkins, the center, he is another returning starter from this team. Good run blocker in space, good chip blocker, hands are solid. I thought he had some bad tendencies, though. He's a little heavy on his feet. I thought balance was a big concern. He ended up on the ground way too often for me. And I thought he lunged a lot as a blocker. I didn't want to see that from him. But 6'4", 298, a solid center for you. And then you got Cooper Cousins, who's stepping in. He played 172 snaps last year. A true sophomore for this team. 6'6", 316. Again, I had some balance questions and some footwork questions. But man, he's another guy I probably should have put the arrow pointing up on because he plays with power. He has a mauler in the run game. He plays with active hands. And I think he's got the size that you look for on the interior of the offensive line. So I like what Cooper Cousins showed. And then at the right tackle position, it's really interesting. Nolan Rucci is listed on our lads as the starter. So I have him listed as the starter right now. But you may notice on the slides that he's not the highest rated backup tackle. Anthony Donko is, I have a little bit higher, but there are questions about his injury. We don't know. He missed the back half of the 2024 season. I don't know if he's going to be ready to go week 1, but I think Donko's a little bit of a better player. We'll talk about both of them. Probably going to be in a competition for who's going to win this spot, and whoever loses this spot, I think probably hits the transfer portal because I think both of these guys are really good starting caliber tackles. Nolan Rucci, though, is 6'8", 308 pounds, a transfer from Wisconsin to Penn State. He ended up stepping in as a starter last year and played pretty well. Obviously, at the size he has, I think he's got good size, good length. The hand usage I thought was good for him. He displayed some solid footwork, a good athlete, and a good run blocker. He's not a great athlete. He's a good one, but not great. And I thought he got beat to his outside shoulder by quicker pass rushers a lot. But my two issues that I had with Rucci, at 6'8", he lunged a lot. There were a lot of really poor technique plays that showed up on tape for me. And I thought he had an awful tendency of disengaging too early. So many instances where he would just let go of the defender, kind of let them get by when the play has not been blown dead. It really frustrated me, and it is a big part of the reason why I have him a little bit lower than I do Donko. I think Rucci's a fine player. I got an 83 rating on him. But Donko, I thought was a little bit better. He's a little bit better in terms of his size. He's 6'5", 330. He's a better athlete, just straight up. He's a great puller in the run game. Strong footwork, strong anchor, great hand placement for the position. He does tend to overset in pass protection, gets beat, but when he gets beat inside. I didn't think he had great waist bend, which is really the concern that I had with him. He allowed defenders to get by because I don't think he's got the most fluid hips. But I think Donko's just a better offensive tackle. I really do. And I think that he should be the starter for this team at the start of the year. Do I expect it? Not really. But if I was James Franklin, I would play Donko. I think he also just helps this offense a little bit better. I think his athleticism, his ability to be a puller, I think he is just a little bit more sound in terms of his technique. So I really like Anthony Donko. They have two other backup tackles, Egan Boyer and Garrett Sexton. Boyer played 51 snaps. He's showed some good athleticism and run blocking potential. Great size at 6'8", 280, at least in high school. He's bulked up a little bit, but I thought his hand usage is going to need some more refinement. Pretty raw as a prospect. And then Garrett Sexton, former quarterback, redshirt freshman. He's 6'6", 290. The athleticism in the run game is really impressive. He's consistently able to land blocks in the second level. A lot of pancakes on tape, but he plays with really high pads. I thought his pass protection technique still needed some work, but his traits are really, really impressive. I don't expect Boyer or Sexton to really get on the field this year. They're both redshirt freshmen. If there is a need for a backup tackle, you at least have the insurance of Rucci or Donko, whether Shelton or whoever plays at right tackle goes down. And then on the interior, I think they got good interior depth. Javen Williams, wouldn't be surprised if he's starting on this team. I think he's too good of a player to not start, truthfully. He's 6'5", 315, was a 5-star recruit in the 2023 class. I mean, just a guy that you can get him in space. He's an excellent mover. He's got inside-outside versatility. He's a freaky athlete with the upside to just be a power forward or an NFL starter. There was a lot that I really liked about Javen Williams. I think he could start at center. I think he could start at tackle. He's 6'5", 315. I think he should get on the field at some point for this team. Chimdi Ono, 4-star recruit from the 23 class, played 19 snaps last year, but just not a lot of tape that are available. All his metrics and size are verified. He's a good athlete, some big hands, but I thought his lower half was really stiff. He struggled with waist bend and a lot of defenders to kind of get some separation between him and the quarterback. Dominic Rulli was a walk-on, 6'3", 295. He's played a lot of special teams, but not really seen the field much as a center. And then TJ Shanahan, a transfer from Texas A&M. If you look at PFF, and look, I am a pretty avid PFF user, but I think a lot of people are going to look at the stats and be like, oh, he was awful this year. TJ Shanahan was not as bad as the numbers on PFF say. His ability to recognize blitzes and stunts has to improve. He was a liability. If you brought a blitzer, TJ Shanahan was going to get beat. It was disgusting to watch. He's not a great pass protector, but he's 6'4", 330, and he's a powerful blocker. He brings a punch in the run game. He's got that hard-nosed hitting mentality, and he's going to be able to clear lanes in the run game. As the very worst, I think he's a good backup. And I also think Alex Birchmeier is a good backup. He's been committed to Penn State since his junior year in high school. Great leg drive, moves well, good power, great hands. Not amazing in pass protection either, but I definitely think he could be an impactful player in the future. But this is a big reason why I'm so high on this Penn State team. 4 out of 5 starters are returning to the offensive line. You've got a bunch of continuity there. And this is a group that I still think has the upside to continue to get better. Young, athletic. This is a great offensive line. They're going to be able to clear run lanes for Singleton and Allen. They're going to be able to keep Aller upright. And with these weapons, this offense should be a lot better than it has been in previous years. And we saw it last year. You started to see the upward trends. I think it's going to continue to get better. And this Penn State offense is going to take another leap in 2025. But let's move on to the defensive line for this team, where there's not as many answers. I am a little worried about this Penn State defensive line. Now, as of right now, there are a lot of question marks. 2 players that you don't have question marks on are Zane Durant and Dani Dennis Sutton. Dani Dennis Sutton's a really good player. I mean, I might not be as high on him as a lot of people are, but he's a 5-star recruit from the 2020 class. He's coming back for one more year to try and win a national title. And I love his size. He's 6'5", 266. He plays with the low pads. He generates power from his lower body. He's explosive. I think he can be a really high floor run defender, and he's got great bend for the position. There were moments last year where he definitely showed the flashes as a pass rusher, as that number 2 guy. He had those moments where it's like, okay, this guy has the traits. And there's no denying, no pun intended, he's got the traits. A lot of his pressures, though, felt like they came off of plays where he wasn't blocked. Missed tackle rate's really high. He just doesn't have a lot of pass rush moves. And honestly, in this defense, this might be the best case scenario. He reminds me a lot of JT Tuimoloau in terms of the way that he plays low to the ground, the way that he's able to defend the run, the athleticism. I think he's a better athlete than JT, but JT Tuimoloau had those same concerns of, I don't think he's able to consistently win one-on-one because he doesn't have a lot of pass rush moves. He's got good bend, and it can sometimes win with his athleticism, but a lot of his best plays came on snaps where he was being not blocked or there was a blitzer, so he had a free look. I think there's going to be a lot of ways that Jim Knowles is going to be able to utilize Denai Dennis-Sutton in the same way. Whether you want to use him on a stunt or you want to bring a blitzer onto his side, you're going to be able to clear looks for Denai Dennis-Sutton, and I think he can have a really big year for this team. So I'm in on Denai Dennis-Sutton. I got a 91 rating on him. I think he's probably a second-round guy. The length, the traits are there. He's got to be a more consistent tackler, and he has to develop more pass rush moves. But I like what I saw, particularly in the Notre Dame game. Definitely showed strides of continuing to get better. And then Zane Durant, a really fun player. 3-star recruit from the 22 class, but a returning starter at 6'1", 288. He might be a little bit undersized for the position, but man, he's just a really good pass rusher. The explosiveness is certainly there. He's got active hands for the position. Good pass rush upside right out the gate. I mean, he reminds me a little bit of Derek Carman in terms of the way that he wins as a pass rusher. The ability to win with that swim move and the active swipes are really impressive. He plays low. He's able to generate explosiveness from his lower half, and he's a good run defender. I thought there were a lot of instances where he did a good job of filling run lanes. He's a little bit undersized. There's no doubt about it. He's going to have to be a more consistent tackler. And because I think he is a little bit thin, or he's a little bit light, if you will, he did get overpowered by bigger blockers. But Zane Durant's one of the best players on this team without question. And I think he's going to be an impactful player. Both of those guys are 90s. And then we got questions about every other guy on this defensive line. Caleb Artis is listed as the starter right now. If I had to guess, Alonzo Ford is probably going to be the starter. I think he is in a better situation to start for this team. But Caleb Artis is a 3-star recruit from the 2022 class. He played 23 snaps last year. Look, he's got good size at 6'3", 325. He's been a decent contributor on the field goal block unit, but he's been unproductive. He's not great with his hands. I think he's too reliant on his size and his athleticism. And while he moves well and he hits hard as a tackler, I just don't know if this is a guy that I want starting on my defensive line right out the gate. Because like I said, I think Alonzo Ford is better. I just do. He actually played last year for Penn State, and he was a transfer from Old Dominion in 2023, a 2-star recruit in the 2020 class, but I think he's the perfect complement to Zane Durant. He's 6'2", 319 pounds. That's the size that I'd like to see from the nose tackle position. He's a great run defender. He fills the lanes well. He showed some solid bend at times. Look, he's not a great athlete. He's not a pass rusher, and he's going to need to continue to get stronger. But if I had to bet, Alonzo Ford is probably the guy I would want starting on the interior of this defensive line. I don't really know. I'm not hearing too much about the interior outside of Randy Adrika, but there are going to be some question marks there. The other starting edge rusher is Zariah Fisher. He is back from an injury. He did not play in 2024, which is a shame because he was coming off a really productive 23 season. I have him at a 78 because, look, there are going to be questions about can he get back to where he was. A lot of his best tape came from him playing linebacker or as a blitzer. I think that's where he was at his best. But he's a good athlete that can be a good tackler, and I think he shows some upside as a pass rusher. I got a 78 rating on him. We'll see what he's able to do. But I wouldn't be shocked if he gets outplayed because I like some of the edge depth on this team. We'll start with the defensive tackles because there are quite a few of them. Ty Blanding played 53 snaps for this team. A former 3-star recruit, hasn't seen the field too much. Doesn't have elite measurables at 6'1", 292. But he's been productive at creating pressure when he's been on the field. Had some plays last year that were intriguing. I think he'll get in more as a rotational piece for this team. Liam Andrews, I have my eyes on. I like Liam Andrews. I like Xavier Gilliam. Both those guys are two guys that I've got my eyes on. Andrews is a former basketball player. Played offensive line primarily in high school, but he flashed good bend. He's flashed the active hands with the ability to win with more finesse moves. I think he's got the ability to shed blockers as a run defender. He's got power in his game. Needs to refine his technique a little bit. I think he plays high. I don't think he's the most explosive athlete in the world. But as a redshirt freshman, keep your eye out on Liam Andrews. Wouldn't be surprised if he's one of the more impactful players on this interior defensive line. And then Xavier Gilliam, we'll just jump over right to him. He played 55 snaps for Penn State this past year. And, not the most productive guy in the world, but I think he's a better athlete than Liam Andrews. He has a basketball background. He hits hard. He's a good run defender. He's explosive off the line of scrimmage. He is still pretty raw as a defensive lineman. Played primarily outside linebacker in high school. Still kind of transitioning inside, but at 6'2", 302 pounds, with his athletic traits, I definitely think Xavier Gilliam is another guy that deserves the eyes. Then we've got DeAndre Cook, played 3 snaps last year, was the MVP of the 2023 DCSAA Football Championship. He's not the greatest, doesn't have the greatest size for the interior at 6'4", 282. He's got good explosiveness. He's not very fast, but he plays with a high motor. I think it kind of makes up for it, and I think he's a decent run defender. Owen Waffle, the transfer out of Michigan, it could be Waffle. I don't know what it is. But an interesting player, played a little bit of fullback in high school. I think he could get in on the offensive side of the ball, truthfully. He's got good power and a good thick build for the position at 6'2", 298. But he's not a great athlete, and I think he's got to diversify his move set a little bit more. But the guy that I want to talk about a little bit is Randy Adarica, because he's been generating quite a bit of buzz. James Franklin said he's been a pleasant surprise at camp. A guy that I think could come out and maybe thrive for this team as a true freshman. I wouldn't be surprised if Adarica has an impact for this team as a true freshman because he's been a big talking point. He's 6'3", 285 pounds. He's a good athlete. He's got good explosiveness. There's not a lot of nuance in there as a rusher, but I do like what he can be as a run stopper. And next to Zane Durant, I think that's almost what you're looking for, is a guy that can kind of fill gaps a little bit more, that can be more of a plug run defender. Look, Randy Adarica probably won't see the field much this year if I had to guess, but I am going to say just remember the name. Remember the name because there is a very real possibility that he could be an impactful player for this team. On the defensive end side, I like some of these names here. Jalen Harvey, 3-star recruit from the 24 class, still's got to grow into his frame a little bit. He's a little bit undersized at 6'2", 250. Doesn't have a lot of pass rush moves, but I think he can line up inside of the line of scrimmage, outside, great length. He's a good run defender and really explosive. Eni White, the transfer from Texas A&M, didn't play much, only 136 snaps in his entire career. He's a 2022 recruit. He's got decent quickness. He's not super fast. Limited production, not great with his hands. Another guy that I think could be a good speed rusher, though, because of his explosiveness, his good run defense, and his frame is pretty solid at 6'5", 245. Another guy that I think we could talk about is Jordan Mayer. Another guy that was a transfer in 2023. I just don't love his size. I think he's undersized at 6'4", 242. He's got shorter arms. Doesn't really have a plan as a pass rusher. Not a great athlete. I don't really expect him to do much for this team. Max Granville, I really, really liked. Redshirt freshman. I've got the eyes on him because I do think he can step in. Wouldn't be surprised if he is starting over Zariah Fisher at the end of the year because his family, as a football family, he's got great athletic traits, explosive off the line of scrimmage, has track background. He's got to continue to grow into his body. He's 6'3", 229. I wanted to see more power, but the bend, he showcased a ton of pass rush moves. The explosiveness, it's there for him, and I wouldn't be surprised if he is a big-time player for this team. Malachi Williams, I also really like. I got the arrow pointing up. Plays really high for the position, but freakish size and length. A good read and react run defender with explosiveness to trigger downhill quickly. 6'3", 243. Basketball background. I think he's got the arrow pointing up. And then Ivan Kamaju as a true freshman as well. Pretty raw as a pass rusher, but a really good run defender. Great length, some solid quickness. Played a little bit of tight end. Still has not made the full transition to defensive line just yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if he is probably going to be a redshirt guy this year, but in the future, I think Kamaju can be an impactful player. But this defensive line feels like it's got more questions than it has in years prior. Zariah Fisher's hurt. You got a lot of these young guys, but a lot of them are unproven right now. But I do believe that one or two of these guys are going to break out. If I had to bet, I have my money on it being Liam Andrews and Max Granville. I think those are the guys that I really like on this team to step up in their role. And I like Alonzo Ford as well. I think he's going to be a fun player for this team. But moving on, outside of the defensive line, we've got the linebacker group. One of the better linebacker groups in the country, if I had to bet. They've got a lot of guys that I think could be an impactful player. And I think we're going to be looking at who is going to be that jack linebacker that Jim Knowles can kind of utilize in his do-it-all role. If I had to bet, it's Dominic DeLuca, but we'll get to him in a little bit. Starting off with Tony Rojas, really good player. I was impressed by what I saw from him. His ability in coverage, one of the better coverage linebackers I've looked at. He had the athleticism to line up one-on-one. Great instincts for zone coverage. He's a solid athlete. He's got some good quickness, can be a blitzer a little bit, but he is a really up and down tackler. Very inconsistent. He's not very strong, struggled to get off of blocks, and I thought he took some bad angles as a run defender. I don't think he's much of a downhill type of linebacker. I don't think he's that downhill thumper. I think he is going to be that roaming linebacker in the middle that is going to probably do a lot of stuff in coverage. I think that's where he has been at his best and where I expect him to play this year, especially when you bring in Amari Campbell, who I think does do some of those things a little bit better. He takes on blocks better. I think he's a good blitzing linebacker. He's a reliable tackler, good downhill run defender, and I think he's a good overall player in coverage as well. I think he is the best linebacker on this team. He's transferring in from North Carolina. But while I don't love his athleticism, and that's really what holds him back, and I think he's got to hit harder. I think he's kind of a weak tackler. He is so smart. I think his instincts are very, very good. I think he moves pretty well for the position. I think he can be an explosive downhill player. He's not fast, but he's quick. That's what I like about Amari Campbell. He's 6'1", 230, but I love this 1-2 combo. I don't really know what the linebacker plan is going to be on this team for the simple fact that they just have so many guys I think could see the field. Keon Wiley coming off an injury, but he's been a pretty good downhill presence for this team. He's a good pass rusher. He has been a guy that's forced a lot of fumbles, and I like that about him. 3-star recruit from the 2022 class. I like his game. I think he moves well. I think he's a good downhill player. Then you got Dominic DeLuca, who started in some games for Penn State last year. He's a little undersized. He's 6'1", 230, very similar size to Amari Campbell. I think Amari Campbell's a little bit more filled out. He just doesn't have great play strength. I don't think he takes on blocks well, but we talked about him being that jack linebacker, and I do expect them to use Dominic DeLuca quite a bit because as a downhill player, he's great. I think he's a great blitzing linebacker. He is a really fun player with a high motor, good run defender. He's a solid coverage player. I don't think he's great in that phase, but he's solid. And I think he's a good overall player. I wouldn't be surprised if he's starting in some spots for this team in 2025. Then you've got Anthony Specca, another good run defender, but he's not a good athlete. There's just not a lot of great athleticism there. Another guy, 6'1", 226, tight in his lower half, doesn't move well. I didn't think he was a great coverage. Wasn't an amazing coverage guy. That was okay, but I'm not a big fan of him. Dakari Nelson, listed as a safety, but looks to be making the conversion a linebacker. Obviously, there's questions about his long speed. He's changing position, but the ball skills and the ability to play in the box, be a run defender, the coverage feel, it's there. I wouldn't be surprised if Dakari Nelson's a really good player for this team as well. Then you got Kari Jackson, has missed the last 2 years with injuries. Obviously, very concerning there. Doesn't have great athleticism, but another guy with solid instincts and coverage. But the guy that I'm most intrigued about is LeVar Arrington. We talked about him in the intro. LeVar Arrington is going to be wearing the sticks this year for Penn State. I think they're going to move him to edge. I do. I think it's the right thing to do. And if that's the case, that changes everything. Because if you get LeVar Arrington moving to the edge, that gives a chance for Dominic DeLuca to play a little bit more linebacker. I think that answers your questions on who's the number 2 rusher. And by the end of this year, I think LeVar Arrington could be the number 1 rusher. He's shown the ability to work inside. He's quick off the line of scrimmage. Great bend, great length, great run defender. I think he is a better edge rusher than he is a linebacker. He's not a great coverage guy. He does need to work on his pad level, though. I think he played really high, wasn't able to generate a ton of power. Gonna have to improve there. He's just a 4-star recruit, but a guy that I think could be one of the most impactful true freshmen in all of college football this year, because I do think he is going to come in and be a monster for this team. So, LeVar Arrington, I do think he's going to move to edge, and if he's a 77 edge rusher, I mean, that would put him as tied as the number 4 rusher on this team. So, I really, really like LeVar Arrington. I like this linebacker group as a whole because I think you've got your coverage guys. You got the guys that can go downhill and be run defenders, and it's a very well-rounded linebacker group. But finishing this off, let's look at the secondary. We talked about it. This secondary had some moves, but I do like this secondary quite a bit. There are some really fun players on this team. Starting off with Elliott Washington II. I think he's probably going to be a late-round draft pick next year. He's not a great athlete, not great speed. Probably could convert to safety. He was recruited as a safety. He's converted to the cornerback position, but the size and length at 5'11", 194, pretty solid there. He's a great tackler for the cornerback position. The ball skills are there, good play strength. I think he's not a great man-to-man guy because of the lack of athletic traits and things of that nature, but I do think he's got the ball skills and can be a good tackler to be a good starting corner on this team. I don't have any questions about that. Then you got Zakee Wheatley, another guy that's a returning starter for this team. I liked his ability to do a little bit of everything. He's 6'2", 200 pounds. One of the more versatile safeties because I think you can play him in the box. You can play him over the top. You can play him all over. And he's really good. He's got great size. He's a great run defender. He's got good length. His technique as a tackler needs some refinement. He's a little bit stiff in terms of his change of direction. His long speed isn't great. That's why he's playing safety. But I do like his game quite a bit, and I think he's a really fun player. DeJuan Lane, though, in my notes, I've got the arrow pointing up. I didn't end up putting it here. Freaky player. A freaky player that I really do think could be one of the more impactful guys on this secondary because he has all the traits that you want in the world. Is a sophomore. He played 155 snaps last year. And while there's limited experience, the guy is just a freak. He's 6'2", 211 pounds. Great run defender. Really consistent tackler for the position as well. But he's also great in coverage. He can be a guy that can match up with tight ends and running backs really consistently. He's fluid. He's got limited experience in the long speed. I just needed to see more of, but don't be surprised if he ends up balling out this year. And we're talking about him as a first-round safety next year. I think he's that good of a player. Does remind me a lot of Kevin Winston Jr. as a player. Just the way that he moves, the way that he is able to come downhill and tackle consistently. I think there's a lot of similarities there. A.J. Harris is this team's best corner. I was impressed with what I saw. I heard some negative things about A.J. Harris as a player. He impressed me. He really did. I think he's a fluid athlete with really good press abilities. He could be a blitzing threat from the outside corner position. He's got good length. He just moves really well. He's not a great tackler for the position, and I need to see more improvement with his ball skills. He's overly aggressive and kind of gets beat a little bit too often over the top, but he just is a good corner. He does a little bit of everything you want to see, and I really like that about him. And then Zion Tracy, he is, with more snaps, I think he's going to be really good. He is so electric. The ball skills are great. He had the pick six against Penn State. He is undersized. He's 5'11", 181 pounds. He's got to improve as a tackler, though. He might be, and I can't say this respectfully. It's going to sound very, very rude. He might be the worst tackler I've ever seen. A 40% missed tackle rate last year. 40%. 4 out of every 10 tackles this guy was missing. He's got to get better. He has to get better. There's no doubt about it. If he's going to be getting a bigger sample size, he has to be a better tackler. But the cornerback room, depth-wise, I like. Kenny Wosley played 50 snaps, good zone defender. He's 5'10", 176 pounds, but I do think he's got versatility to play both safety and corner. Tyler Armstead, very under-recruited player. Just probably not a guy at 6'1", 167. Limited tape, still very developmental. A lot of questions about Tyler Armstead, but 2 guys I really like. Darius Dixon, the true freshman, great ball skills. His timing when closing was fantastic. He's got good footwork. He's got good physicality. 6 foot, 185 pounds with really good length. I don't think he's the fastest corner in the world, but I do think Darius Dixon is a guy that could get in here and play for this team right away. And then Audavian Collins played 252 snaps for this team. It might be a big nickel at 5'11", 180. But he's a great press defender. Physicality, tackling, the speed I think is there. I like his ability to convert to the slot, particularly because I do love what he does coming off of the edge as a run defender. I think he could really thrive in that role. And then you got Colin Dinkins as well. Another guy that was a walk-on with very limited tape. The measurables are there at 6'2", 203, but a guy that just didn't have the recruiting pedigree and doesn't have the experience as of now. Cornerback room is pretty good. I think there's a really good cornerback room. The safety room, I don't love the depth. You got Vabu Torre, played 41 snaps. He's got good size at 6'1", 212, but I just don't think he's a good coverage player. The instincts did not flash very well. He's a good run defender, probably more of a box safety. Lamont Payne played wide receiver. I think his wide receiver background helps him. He's got a good ball skills, good press player at times, but his play strength isn't great, and I don't think he's a good run defender. His long speed isn't great either. King Mack comes up back to, the Mack is back, if you will. He comes to Penn State, initially committed to Penn State in 23, hit the portal, went to Alabama in 2024, then hit the portal again and is back at Penn State. I think he's a versatile defensive back. He can play in both the slot, can play safety. He's a physical player with length, fluidity, but I think defenders were able to get past him really easily. He's a primary zone guy that's not super fast. We'll see what he's able to do. Antoine Belgrave, shorter, not the greatest speed in the world, and I think he's going to have to improve his physicality a little bit more. And then Braz Thomas is the last guy that we'll talk about. Excellent size and length at 6'2", 185. Good zone defender. Wide receiver background helps him mirror routes really well, but he's very choppy when breaking in and out of routes. This Penn State secondary is very interesting. I think they've got really good players. I think the cornerback room is elite. Is the wide receiver or is the safety room good enough? We'll find out. And I'm going to be very curious to see how it plays out. But to kind of wrap things up here, Penn State's got an interesting schedule. They've got some interesting matchups here. You start off against Nevada. Yes, the logo's there. I do apologize. Tough to see. They start off their first 4 games at home versus Nevada, versus Florida International, versus Villanova. The easiest 3-game stretch I think I've ever seen. Then you play Oregon. Oregon's going to be really good. That's going to be a tough matchup. Then you go at UCLA. By the way, you have Oregon out of a bye, by the way, too. So that game could go either way. Questions about Oregon's quarterback room. We'll just say that's a split. You go at UCLA, at your versus Northwestern, 2 of the, I'll say, worst teams in the Big Ten. Those should be wins. I mean, this team could very realistically be 6-0, 7-0 after the Iowa game. At Iowa, I think they can beat Iowa. But there's a tough stretch. You come off a bye, you go at Ohio State versus Indiana, 2 of the best teams in the Big Ten. I mean, they're going to be pretty high in this series. Spoiler alert. 2 tough teams. That's going to be a tough matchup for them. At Michigan State versus Nebraska at Rutgers. Nebraska's not an easy matchup. I know it's at home. That's not an easy matchup. Rutgers, I think, could be competitive. They usually are. But it's an interesting schedule. They are plus 750 to win the national title, plus 240 to win the Big Ten. Their win total is 10.5 games. Really fun team. Obviously, we talked about the strengths, the running game. I think they've got the best 1-2 punch at the running back position of any team in college football. Maybe you could argue Notre Dame. Maybe. But I love this 1-2 punch. The offensive line, I think it's a strength. I think both lines are strengths, to be completely honest, because while I do have questions about the depth, that's one of my biggest questions with Penn State, I don't have concerns about this D-line. I love Dennis Sutton. I like what you're going to see from Zane Durant. But can Drew Allar take the next step? That's the biggest question mark. And is this receiving room going to be good enough? They're returning the 23rd returning production. They are 13th in terms of recruiting. If Drew Allar could take that next step, Penn State can win a national title this year. If he does take the next step, I would absolutely bet them to win the conference. I would, because I think this defense is going to be good. They always are. You got Jim Knowles, who's a great defensive mind. The defensive culture here has been great. They're going to be able to run the ball. But if Drew Allar can take that next step, Penn State can definitely win the Big Ten, get an auto bid in the college football playoff, and we could be looking at this team as a potential national title contender. But I'd love to hear what your guys' thoughts are on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Is this team good enough to win a national title? Would love to hear from you down in the comment section below. Leave a like on this video. Subscribe if you are new. Check out the Patreon for my full in-depth guide on Penn State. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Adios.